good morning everybody. Thanks for the invitation. When a few weeks ago Garrett reached out and said, what if Garrett, by the time I come here, the war is ended and the prices are back to normal? Which is currently happening. But then he made a very wise comment that, okay, there might be transitory elements, but there will be long-term lessons to learn from this. So he focuses on the long-term lessons, not the short episodes. So if you move to the next one. So here's the trend. So the up graph shows the price of crude oil, which is normally these days for the past few years around $70. That's like new normal for crude oil. It jumped up, of course, went up to 150, but this is the weekly average. During the war, it averaged around 106, and it's down now to close to the normal. But it sort of spiked 38%, $38, which is 55%. The bottom is the average California retail gas price, which immediately shoot up, went up all the way to 5.6, and then it's gradually coming. You see a word there, rockets and feathers. That's a well-known phenomenon in energy economics. It says when the crude oil price goes up, the gas price at the gas station follows like a rocket from Vandenberg, goes up very quickly. You see that. However, when the crude oil price comes down, the retail price takes time. There's no hurry, you can stay there for a while. You see what happens? Yes, this is called menu cost because the sellers say, what if it goes back? Let me keep it off for a moment, and when I'm sure I will bring it back. And you clearly see this phenomenon there. The oil price is down, gas price is coming down, but slow. Okay, so first fact. Gas, let's look at this. Okay, now let's look at a typical California retail gas price. Which is these days is around 5.5. A fun fact about San Luis Obispo, we not only have the least affordable housing in the country, when you look at the ratio of median house price to wage, we also have one of the highest gas prices in the country. So, 2 points to remember, yes, if you look at the regional gas map in the country, the only state which is a little bit higher than us is Hawaii. And then we are next. So this is the decomposition of gas price in California. So the bottom is the commodity price. That's for all states. $2.3 is the crude oil price. Then on top of that, we have also stacking of half-ton stack. So what goes there? We have almost $1 of refining margin, which will be much lower in other states. Why? 2 reasons. Other states can trade gasoline between themselves. California is not allowed to import gas from other states because of its environmental regulations. So it is an isolated island. Second, the gas production process in California is more subject to environmental regulations, so it's more expensive to process crude oil. So you already pay almost 50 cents more on the processing. Then comes the marketing. Then you will see cap and trade and low carbon fuel standards. Together they are 40 cents. Other states, many of the other states don't have it. We pay it and then we send it back to climate action, government agencies in charge of green fuels. And then you see 3 types of taxes on top of that. If you go to the next slide, please. So we have 3 types of taxes imposed on a gallon of gas in California. The left one is California state excise tax. Excise tax means a tax which is on physical units, not on price. So it doesn't matter how much is the price of the gas. State of California collects 60 cents and uses it for transportation. The federal collects 18 cents from every state and then brings it back in terms of federal aid and so on. Then there's a city or local sales tax. This depends on the price. This is not excise tax. So the more expensive gasoline, the more tax goes to Scott and colleagues back there. That's the money to keep our city running and the roads and everything. So 2 types of tax. The left one do not depend on price. The right one depends on the price. So 2 different types of it. And altogether, they add close to $1 of tax to a gallon of gas that many other states don't have. So that's why the average gas price in California is 5.5. If you go to Texas and Oklahoma and other places, Indiana, it will be 3.5. So we pay almost $2 extra per gallon of gas, but we live in this amazing place, so we need to finance it. Next one, please. Okay, so now what happens when the gas price goes up? Is it good for the transportation budget or bad? There are two sides. First, when the gas becomes more expensive, the travel demands drop. Okay? So that puts a negative pressure on the state's revenue because people buy fewer gallons of gas. Fortunately, the transportation demand is what we call inelastic. It's not very responsive to price. But still, it has a negative. The second very well-documented fact is that when gas price goes up, even temporarily, people switch quickly toward more EV. That's not necessarily very rational, because we know that the gas price come back to their long run in few months, and you're buying a car for the next 5-10 years. So if you think in terms of life cycle cost, you shouldn't react very quickly to current gas price, but people, that's the reality of behavioral response. So EV adoption increases, and EVs don't pay gas tax. The third one, we have a lot of construction people in the room, the construction cost goes up. Because when the crude oil is more expensive, asphalt and cement, all those energy-intensive inputs of the construction, driving the heavy trucks, etc., is going to be more expensive. So what happens from the budgetary perspective? So the revenue for the state goes down because people drive or consume fewer units of gasoline, and they get the taxes on the units, not on the price, and the construction cost goes up. So two pressure points on the state. Now, wrapping up on my last minute, please next slide. Okay, so here are the lessons that we're getting. First, war increased the price, but we're almost coming back on the crude oil price side, but not on the retail side, so it's going to stay high for a while. State collects excise tax, which is not a function of price, but on the unit, and the unit is under pressure because of higher prices. Local sales tax are healthy. They went up from almost 10 cents to 13 cents per gallon, so that's helping the city budget. Also, they need to pay more for the construction budget. EV adoption is increasing. Construction cost goes up, and that creates budget squeeze. Now, a long-term question. Now, with seeing all these beautiful Teslas and other EVs running, what will happen to the transportation budget? Because historically, the thinking was, if I put an excise tax on the unit of gasoline, then I'm sort of charging everybody for the amount of usage, right? Now, EVs don't pay it. And we need to think about the new model of tax, how we are going to tax EVs. It's going to be registration fee. That's going to have its own problems because it's charging the same amount to people who drive a lot versus less. Maybe use technology to exactly measure people's transportation or other things, but the bottom is the new options for our policymakers to think and basically think about new energy tax. Thank you very much.